You are looking live at Launch Pad 6, Site 31 of the Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan in the Central Asian Desert, where a three-stage Soyuz 2.1A booster stands fully fueled, ready to launch less than 24 minutes from now on a delivery run to send some 2.8 tons of food, fuel, and supplies to the Expedition 73 crew aboard the International Space Station. Good day from Mission Control in Houston and the International Space Station Flight Control Room. The Soyuz booster was fueled for launch several hours ago. The countdown is proceeding on track. No issues reported. The temperature at Baikonur on this late summer evening is 70 degrees Fahrenheit, partly cloudy skies over the Central Asian launch site as the countdown is proceeding on track for a liftoff at 10:54 and 6 seconds a.m. Central Time, 8:54 and 6 seconds p.m. Baikonur time this evening. It is obviously dark at Baikonur. Sunset was about an hour and 50 minutes ago. Once the candle is lit on the Soyuz 2.1A booster, it will be about an 8-minute, 49-second ride to deliver the Progress into its preliminary orbit about 125 miles above the Earth, at which point the spacecraft's solar arrays and navigational antennas will be deployed, and in a stair-step fashion, the Progress will conduct an automated rendezvous with a series of engine firings programmed into its onboard computers to enable it to arrive in the vicinity of the International Space Station on Saturday afternoon for an automated docking to the aft port of the Zvezda service module. That docking on Saturday is scheduled at 12:27 p.m. Central Time. The Soyuz booster, as is commonly the case, rolled out of its integration facility at Site 31 on Monday morning. It rolled to the pad a short distance away horizontally on a rail car, at which point it was vertically raised by hydraulics into its current position to enable technicians to hook up data lines, fuel lines, and electrical lines in the final several days of processing that has led us to this point where the countdown is about at the T-minus 21-minute mark before liftoff. The aft port of Zvezda, which will be the port of call for the arrival of the unpiloted Roscosmos Progress 93 cargo craft on Saturday, that docking port was vacated on Tuesday with the undocking and deorbit of the old 91 Progress vehicle that arrived back in March, completed its 6-month mission. It undocked and several hours later conducted a deorbit burn to harmlessly burn up in the Earth's atmosphere over the Pacific Ocean. So the aft port of Zvezda is ready to accept the new 93 Progress cargo craft and its haul of 5,546 pounds of food, fuel, and supplies for the crew on board the International Space Station. That crew is led by Roscosmos cosmonaut Sergei Ryzhikov. He is in the center of your screen in the back row there. From left to right, it's Oleg Platonov, NASA's Johnny Kim, Ryzhikov, Alexei Zubritsky, and Kimi Yui of the Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency in the front row, Mike Fink on the left, Zena Cardman on the right. Those are your 7 crew members comprising the Expedition 73 crew. The countdown highlights from this point are fairly straightforward for the launch of a Soyuz booster. At the T-minus 7-minute mark, about 12 and a half minutes from now, a launch key will be inserted into the launch bunker at the launch bunker in Baikonur. That's a real key transitioning the launch sequence into its final automated mode for the final minutes of the countdown. At the T-minus 5-minute 30-second mark in the count, the launch control at the bunker in Baikonur will report that the range is clear and the Soyuz rocket is ready to begin its journey. About a minute and a half later, at the T-minus 4-minute mark, onboard systems will have been switched to onboard control, and a few seconds after that, the fuel lines and other elements of the rocket engines will be purged with nitrogen, thus fireproofing them by removing vapors of fuel and oxidizer. Just 2 minutes and 45 seconds from launch, the booster tanks will be pressurized for flight, optimizing the flow of fuel, helping to add structural rigidity to the rocket on the launch pad. At the T-minus 1 minute 30-second mark in the count, the ground propellant feed will be terminated. The Soyuz will be on internal power about at the T-minus 1 minute mark. There are two umbilicals that are buttressed up against the side of the Soyuz 2.1A booster. They provide the servicing capabilities for the booster once it rolls out to the launch pad. The first of those two umbilicals will retract at the T-minus 30-second mark, followed about 15 seconds later by the disconnection and retraction of the second of those two umbilicals. That will initiate the launch command for auto sequence start of the engine ignition. The engines will come up to flight speed, the hold down arms will retract, and the Soyuz booster will be on its way. Again, launch time is scheduled at 10:54 and 6 seconds a.m. Central Time, 8:54 and 6 seconds p.m. Baikonur time. The Ascent timeline, once again, for those who pay attention to the fine tuning of the details of that. Once the Soyuz lifts off, it will arc out to the northeast on an angle inclined 51.6 degrees to either side of the equator, matching the inclination of the orbit of the International Space Station. The time of launch, as with all vehicles that are launched to the space station, is measured by the moment that the launch pad, wherever it may be, is in line with the orbital plane or trajectory, basically the lane on a freeway, if you look at it that way, that the approaching vehicle will launch into, moving into a corridor to match the inclination of the Earth's rotation and the inclination of the orbit of the International Space Station. 1 minute 58 seconds after launch, the first stage of the Soyuz booster will separate. At the 3 minute 3 second mark into the flight, the launch shroud enveloping the Progress itself will be jettisoned. And at the 4 minute 37 second mark into the flight, the second stage of the Soyuz 2.1A booster will shut down. 10 seconds later, it will be jettisoned. About 10 seconds after that, the skirt encompassing the third stage of the Soyuz will be jettisoned, and that will remain the case for about the last 3 minutes and 46 seconds of powered flight on the singular power of the Soyuz's third stage engine. 8 minutes and 46 seconds after launch, the third stage will shut down. 3 seconds later, the Progress will separate from the Soyuz booster, and that will be followed seconds later by solar array and navigational antenna deploy. The Progress then will be on its way to conduct a series of pre-programmed engine firings to increase its altitude, matching that of the International Space Station, ultimately resulting in an arrival in the neighborhood of the space station on Saturday afternoon for its final approach and its link up to the aft port of the Zvezda service module. We are now at T-minus 15 minutes, 25 seconds and counting. Again, the countdown has gone very smoothly. You see the venting of liquid oxygen from the first stage of the Soyuz booster. This is typical of any countdown for a Soyuz on the launch pad. This Progress is scheduled to be at the International Space Station for about the next 6 months. It will depart shortly before the next Soyuz crew is launched to the station. That will comprise of NASA's Chris Williams, along with Sergei Sverchkov and Sergei Mikhaev. They will be the Soyuz MS-28 crew that will fly to the International Space Station to begin their 8-month visit on the orbital outpost. Johnny Kim and his crewmates, Sergei Ryzhikov and Alexei Zabritsky, are scheduled to return to Earth on their Soyuz MS-27 spacecraft on December 9th. As mentioned earlier, this is the first of 2 scheduled cargo flights to the International Space Station over the next 3 days. Down in Florida, the Northrop Grumman Cygnus spacecraft, dubbed the SS Willie McCool, is being prepared on its SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket for its liftoff from Pad 40 at the Cape Canaveral Space Force Station on Sunday afternoon. Assuming a launch on Sunday afternoon, Cygnus will arrive at the space station next Wednesday, September 17th, for a grapple by the Canadarm2 robotic arm that will be operated by NASA's Johnny Kim and backed up by Zena Cardman. They will grapple Cygnus and maneuver it in place for its installation onto the nadir or Earth-facing port of the Unity module to be bolted into place for its stay on board the space station. This is an extended Cygnus spacecraft for the first time launching on a Falcon 9 rocket capable of carrying in excess of 11,000 pounds of cargo. So between these two vehicles, almost 17,000 pounds of cargo, Progress and Cygnus, soon to be delivered to the international complex. We're inside T-minus 13 minutes and counting. Again, the countdown proceeding smoothly, about 6.5 minutes away from the first major milestone in the terminal count, which will be the launch key being inserted into the launch bunker. Once the Progress automatically docks on Saturday to the aft port of the Zvezda service module, Sergei Ryzhikov and Alexei Zabritsky will carry the lion's share of the work to conduct leak checks on both sides of that docking interface at the aft end of the Russian segment of the station before opening of the hatch and unloading the highest priority cargo on board. One of the elements being carried on board is a new spacesuit to be worn on future Russian spacewalks. But again, the 2.8 tons of food, fuel, and supplies carry a variety of items, including favorite foods for the crew members on board the International Space Station, as well as oxygen, nitrogen, and water, along with spare parts that are common for any Progress delivery run to the orbital outpost. We now are inside the T-minus 11 minute mark in the countdown. No issues being reported from the blockhouse in Baikonur.
Готовность к пуску 5 минут. Первый. Готовность к пуску 5 минут принял, 20-й. Готовность к пуску 5 минут принял, 30-й. Готовность к пуску 5 минут принял, 50-й. Готовность к пуску 5 минут принял, 60-й. Готовность к пуску 5 минут принял, 70-й.
Once again, a good view of the Soyuz 2.1A booster on Launch Pad 6, Site 31 at the Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan. If you're just joining us, we're at T-minus 9 minutes, 50 seconds into the count. Everything proceeding on track. It will be an 8-minute, 49-second ride to its preliminary orbit for the Progress 93 cargo craft after it separates from the third or upper stage of the Soyuz 2.1A booster. The Progress will automatically deploy its twin solar arrays and navigational antennas to begin its 34-orbit rendezvous to the International Space Station. And a drone view of Site 31 at the Baikonur Cosmodrome. Coming up on the T-minus 8-minute 30-second mark in the count. There's a good view of the launch pad flame trench. Once again, in the last minute of the countdown, you can just barely make it out, but at the side of the Soyuz booster are two umbilical towers that provide servicing to the vehicle for its 3 days of processing. Once it reaches the launch pad following rollout, the first of those two umbilicals will retract at about the T-minus 30-second mark. The second of the two umbilicals retracts at T-minus 15 seconds. That initiates the engine firing or auto sequence start for engine ignition and ultimately liftoff once the engines reach flight speed. T-minus 7 minutes 30 seconds and counting.
Готовность принял 20-й. Минутную готовность принял 30-й. Минутную готовность принял 50-й. Минутную готовность принял 60-й. Минутную готовность принял 70-й. 60-й сброс шагов объекта. Есть сбросить шагов объекта 60-й.
The ascent phase of this mission is under the control of the launch conductor in Baikonur. Once the Progress separates from the upper stage of the Soyuz booster, control of the rest of the flight of Progress to the station is conducted by the Russian flight controllers at the Russian Mission Control Center, located on the outskirts of Moscow in the town of Korolyov. There's a good view, a live view of that International Space Station flight control room in Korolyov from a balcony camera. Down in Baikonur, the launch key has now been inserted in the launch bunker, transitioning the launch sequence into its automatic mode for the final stages of the terminal count. T-minus 6 minutes and counting. The bunker in Baikonur reports that the range is clear. The Soyuz rocket now ready to begin its journey. It is fully fueled, ready to begin an 8-minute 49-second journey uphill to deliver the Progress into its preliminary orbit. Approaching T-minus 5 minutes. Mark, T-minus 5 minutes and counting. And the fuel lines are now being purged with nitrogen, fireproofing them by removing vapors of fuel and oxidizer. With everything going per the timeline, we are now at T-minus 4 minutes and counting Onboard systems have been switched to the onboard control. Coming up on the T-minus 3-minute mark, all is in readiness for an on-time liftoff at 10:54 and 6 seconds a.m. Central Time, 8:54 and 6 seconds p.m. Baikonur time. Now, T-minus 2 minutes 45 seconds and counting, the ground propellant feed has been terminated to the vehicle. We're standing by for the pressurization of the booster tanks. Soyuz booster on internal power. And the booster tanks on schedule are being pressurized. T-minus 2 minutes 10 seconds and counting. Inside 2 minutes. We now are at T-minus 1 minute and counting. We're about 20 seconds away from the retraction of the first of those 2 umbilicals. T-minus 45 seconds and counting. And there goes the retraction of the first of the 2 umbilicals. We're just a few seconds away from the retraction of the second umbilical that will initiate engine sequence start. T-minus 20 seconds and counting. And the second umbilical now retracting. Engine sequence has started. Engines coming up to flight speed. T-minus 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold down arms retracted, and we have liftoff of the 93 Progress resupply ship to the International Space Station. The Soyuz booster has cleared the tower. 20 seconds into the flight. All parameters are normal. Roll, pitch, and yaw program are in. The booster arcing out to the northeast over the Central Asian desert. 35 seconds into the flight. Good first stage performance reported from the blockhouse in Baikonur. Good stable vehicle performance. All engine parameters are in normal range. The combustion pressure is nominal on the first stage. 1 minute 5 seconds into the flight. Yaw, pitch, and roll all reported to be nominal from the blockhouse in Baikonur. Coming up on maximum dynamic pressure on the Soyuz booster, 1 minute 30 seconds into the flight.
Двигатели первой и второй ступеней работают нормально.
1 minute 40 seconds into the flight, all vehicle parameters reported to be normal.
Параметры конструкции ракеты-носителя в норме.
Standing by for first stage separation.
Вращение в норме.
And we have first stage separation.
Выключение двигателей БК.
Strap-on boosters falling away. Second stage now in control. 2 minutes 14 seconds into the flight. Everything reported to be normal. Good trajectory on the Soyuz booster.
Параметры конструкции ракеты-носителя в норме.
All structural parameters are reported to be normal from the blockhouse in Baikonur. 2 minutes 35 seconds into the flight.
Второй ступени работает нормально.
Just over 6 minutes of powered flight remaining.
Параметры системы управления ракеты-носителя в норме.
Good reports coming back from the blockhouse in Baikonur as we approach the 3-minute mark into the flight. Good stability on the vehicle, good engine performance from the second stage.
Параметры конструкции ракеты-носителя в норме. Есть сброс створок головного обтекателя.
Confirmation now of the jettisoning of the launch shroud that has enveloped the Progress itself.
Ступени работает нормально.
3 minutes 27 seconds into the flight.
Параметры системы управления ракеты-носителя в норме.
3 minutes 40 seconds into the flight, a little over 5 minutes of powered flight remaining. Good reports coming back on vehicle performance.
235 миллисекунд.
The flight is reported to be right down the line, right on the pre-launch parameters for the trajectory of the Soyuz booster. And now we're getting video from the camera on the upper stage of the Soyuz booster. 4 minutes 10 seconds into the flight. Yaw, pitch, and roll all reported to be normal. Good structural stability on the Soyuz booster. 4 minutes 30 seconds into the flight. Coming up on second stage shutdown and jettisoning. And we have second stage shutdown, second stage jettison. Third stage up and running. The third stage skirt was just jettisoned, as you saw. 5 minutes, 10 seconds into the flight, about 3 minutes and 40 seconds of powered flight remaining. The vehicle reported to have good stability, good structural support. Good third stage performance reported from Baikonur. We are 5 minutes, 45 seconds into the flight. A little over 3 minutes of powered flight remaining. This third stage engine providing about 30 tons of thrust for the duration of its burn. We're expecting third stage shutdown at about the 8-minute 46-second mark into the flight, about 2.5 minutes from now. Good yaw, pitch and roll. Six minutes, 47 seconds into the flight, 2 minutes of powered flight remaining. Everything looking good on the Soyuz booster. Had a momentary loss of video from the third stage camera on the Soyuz. That view is now back as we hit the 7-minute 15-second mark into the flight, about 1.5 minutes of powered flight remaining. Third stage engine continues to hum along in good shape. Good stability on the vehicle. 7.5 minutes into the flight. Good structural parameters being reported by the engineers in Baikonur as we approach the 8-minute mark into the flight. Eight minutes, 10 seconds into the flight. We're about 40 seconds away from third stage shutdown and spacecraft separation. 8.5 minutes into the flight. So far, so good for the Soyuz booster. We are standing by for third stage shutdown and spacecraft separation. And third stage shutdown now confirmed. And third stage separation. And we have confirmation that the solar arrays and navigational antennas have now been deployed as planned. So it was a nominal, uneventful ascent for the Soyuz booster. Liftoff at 10:54 and 6 seconds a.m. Central Time, 8:54 and 6 seconds p.m. at the launch site in Baikonur. All three stages of the Soyuz performed as advertised, placing the Progress in its preliminary orbit about 125 miles above the Earth. With the solar arrays and navigational antennas having been deployed, next up is the activation of the external camera, and you see that now, the familiar cross-haired engineering view that will come into play in earnest on Saturday when the Progress is in the final phase of its approach for an automated docking to the aft port of the Zvezda service module.